Hey, it's James. I'm trying to create a video to show you guys the actual equipment setup for our time-dependent lab. I am my own cameraman, so we'll see how well I can shoot video while talking and operating this equipment. So over here, that's all you get to see of me. Over here is the computer setup. Here's that DAC. And like I said, it's just simply plugged into my laptop via USB. And like we saw when we used our DAC assistant to configure this DAC, we were plugging our two leads into channels 2 and 3. And I think it was positive into 2 and negative into 3. You can try to keep track of it if you want, but it's not too big of a deal. It's just going to be flipped in polarity if you get those switched around. But what I have here, so you're going to use a small screwdriver, you can see there. You'll want to open those up inside of there, twist your wire and put it in, and then screw it down tight. So this is a cable that has banana plugs on one end. And on the other end, those banana plugs have been cut off. We only want you to use the cables that have already had those banana plugs cut off. Don't go cutting off your own. We're going to need lots of those with banana plugs on both ends for future labs. So we're kind of going backwards. We got our output going into the computer there. And we have our output of our function generators making its way to the DAC. You're seeing it all backwards. Here, you can use this little adapter here to attach your banana plugs onto it, like that. And then it goes to coaxial cable. And this coaxial cable has both positive and negative running inside. And here you will see I have 3 different types of function generators. And you may end up using any of these in your lab. And each one will behave a little differently. So here is the coax cable on this end. This one here is probably the easiest one. It's the newest one. Let's start with that one. So just turn it on, and here you see it has channel 1 and channel 2. For this one, we can get both a sinusoidal signal and a DC offset in one channel. So we only have to plug that coaxial cable in one channel. If you look over here, so on all 3 of these, the screen is going to do a good job of prompting you for whatever you need to do. So we have channel 1 and it's off. To turn that on, just come over here to output. That button, click that. Now channel 1 is on. If you want to switch between channels, you hit this channel 1/channel 2 button, you can switch between those. But we'll just do channel 1. And there you see we have a frequency of 100 Hertz, an amplitude of 3 volts peak to peak, and we have an offset of 1 volt DC. Note also up here we have this high Z. That is the input impedance that it is producing an output voltage for. Often you need to, well, it's becoming less often. A lot of times now it's automated, but impedance matching was an art. You still have to do it a little bit here and there. If you are getting output data that looks to be twice as large as the amplitude, both for your oscillations and for the offset, if it looks twice as large as what you have here, then your impedance is probably off. Like you see here, channel 2 is 50 ohms. So this one you can either switch between 50 ohms or high impedance, high Z. If you'll want it on high Z, and you'll get the right amplitudes in your DAC. Those impedances will be matched up. And phase, we don't really need to worry about that too much in this lab. Neglect that for now. To adjust this, so it's already set up for sinusoidal signal, but if you wanted to use something else, you could press waveform here, and we get these different options. You see there's sine, square, pulse, ramp, noise. We want sine. It was already on sine, but I'm just showing you how you set it. If we wanted to adjust the frequency, we could do that here. So now, see, that has become red. It's looking for us to enter some numbers down there. We come over here and just, let's double it. Let's take it up to 200. And then we want to come back over here. We see hertz. So we want to press that F3 button. And now you see that we have 200 hertz for frequency. And you do the same thing with amplitude and with offset. Let's just do that quickly. There may be a few unique things about it. So to set amplitude for our sinusoidal signal, or our oscillating wave, whatever we picked, pick amplitude, and look again, it's red, looking for you to enter something. Let's enter 2, and then you do volts peak to peak. So from the peak of your waveform up here to the trough down here, that's going to be those 2 volts that you enter. So you see 2 volts peak to peak. And offset's done the same way. It's just easy. You'll pick volts DC. So let's test that. So we're looking for 200 hertz, 2 volts peak to peak, and 1 volt DC offset. I modified that VI that I created for you guys as an example. What I did was I set, where's my cursor? Up here. I set this to a pretty high sampling rate to make sure it would work for anything I'm going to put in. So long as I put in 1500 hertz or less for my signal generator, I won't have any sampling issues. And I put in a pretty small number of samples just because I want to see the waveform pop up quickly. But let's run this once. So there, we have 2 volts peak to peak, right? It's going from 0 to 2, and our DC offset, oops, you're missing that on my screen. Let's do it again. 2 volts peak to peak, and 1 volt for a DC offset. Let's go back and make sure that that's what we set over here. And it is. 2 volts peak to peak, 1 volt DC. We could do a bunch of math to see if our frequency is correct, but I suspect it is. That is that one. Now, let's use this one. This one is similar, but it's older. It's a little more difficult to get to work. So this one is only single channel. This sync, we don't want to use that one. So we're just taking the coax from that other one and putting it on the output of this one. So just put that on there and twist it. Now here we can do essentially the same things, it's just a little less clear. We're still looking at the screen to see what we need to do. Over here we can see that we have a sinusoidal wave. So we don't really need to change that. We could, it's pretty easy just to see how I pick a square wave and change to square. I'll go back to sinusoidal, back to sinusoidal. Now it has 1 kilohertz, that's not bad, but let's just show how to change it. I'll pick frequency, let's enter, we want to enter a number. So 500. And let's pick hertz. So you gotta come over here, there's hertz. So pick this one, and there you see we have 500 hertz. Now let's pick amplitude. So this is for the amplitude of the oscillations. And here it's 100 millivolts peak to peak. Let's make it something a little bit bigger. So same procedure, just hit enter number, hit, let's give it 2, and let's find volts peak to peak. I believe we're setting this up just like the other one, except for it's a little higher frequency. Well, actually 2.5 times the frequency. Here we can set the offset. Let's make this, let's enter number, make it 1, and here it doesn't really matter, just if you pick, it's going to be DC, so here we have 1 volt DC for our offset. Now let's test that. Back over here, let's run this again, come up here. So yeah, see we have something that's higher frequency. So here we're going 4 volts peak to peak, and so it's from 0 to 4, and our DC offset is 2. So everything here is double what we entered. So here we're having that issue of our input impedance isn't matched. So let's go back over here and adjust that. So it is not easy to adjust that on this one. Let me see if I remember how to do it. I think we go Shift and Menu. So you get here to the menus, and oh wait, I think maybe is it System menu or is it In-Out menu? Let's try this one. No, I don't think this is right. Let's go back. Oops. So you'd go back to do that, and then to go through the menus, we do this. Let's go back to the System menu. I think it might be there. There. 50 ohm. Let's switch it to high Z. Enter. Now, let's come back over here and test this. So we're still getting twice. Let's see. Oh, wait, so that's plus 2 volts DC for our offset. So that's what we're getting here. Right? We're at 2 volts DC. And what's our amplitude of our oscillations? So it's switched to something. Let's set these again. Apparently that's what it's wanting us to do. So enter number. Let's do 2 and volts peak to peak. So 2 volts peak to peak and an offset of 2 volts DC. And we have a frequency of 500 hertz. So let's try that. So there we have a 2 volt offset, and it's oscillating between 1 and 3, so we have 2 volts peak to peak for our oscillation amplitude. So that one's working now too.